It's truly an honor to have you guys here. I'm Eric Anthony, and these are Bible Time videos. It's been a while since we've done the last one. That's because I only feel inspired to do these videos when God leads it, not me. But right now, we're going to get right into the viewers' questions. That's what we're doing right now. The last video was just incredible. We're going through the alphabet so I can keep track of these videos. It started with, and these are under alias names, it started with an A, and this is a B. Let's just go with the name. Let's go with Brittany. These are pretty common. So here we go. Brittany says, I've been a Christian for the better half of my life. I'd like to say that I understand a lot about the Christian faith. However, there's one area of faith that more recently I just can't seem to understand as well as I used to, and that is the issue of being at peace with God's will. Truly wanting God's will to be your own. When I am sober-minded, I know that God's will is best. He is omniscient, knows way more than I do. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts, and he sees the big picture, and that's great. But then something happens which throws a wrench into my life, and suddenly I'm not at such peace over God's will. To give you a very basic example, this is Brittany talking. I am a girl who dreams of having a family of her own as long as I can remember. It's cheesy, yes, but a girl who's looking for her prince nonetheless. I've spent days that have turned into months, that turned into years, praying for him to come into my life, and a few years back I thought he did. And I guess things didn't really work out between the two. And then Brittany says, why didn't I get what I thought was God's will? When I bring up this matter to others, it's frustrating. Because everyone says I'm not satisfied in my relationship with God, and I don't believe that's true. What does that sacrifice look like? So I guess my question is, how can we be at peace about God's will when it isn't our own? Brittany, I want to thank you so much for writing this in. I personally struggle with it. And here is my best attempt to give my thought. I am, again, not a preacher or a teacher, okay? I want to make that clear. I'm someone who starts a conversation, and that is why I hope you guys actually use the chat box below and you continue this conversation by giving your thoughts. Please, this is just a platform to do that. So about God's will versus our own, well, here we go. I would first say that we're on the path of reprogramming our minds into discovering who God created us to be. And it's all in the mind and the spirit. And in creating our will to be more like God's, it starts with the very, very small things. And I would say timing. Timing is key for what I'm learning in my life. And I hope you can relate to this in some way. When we talk about relationships, I can very well align with where your thoughts are at, Brittany. I am single and not feeling pressure to just get into a relationship right away, although I do just long for companionship like we all do. We are created for that, but then it goes back to the timing of when God has it planned. I don't think the desires that you have, the longing for it, that's not wrong. I think that's actually what you've been programmed for. But this does come to the moment of trust and faith, and that God truly knows the timing more than we do. And that's where I think a lot of God's will versus our will comes into play. I'm going to give a little bit of personal testimony because that's all I have to go off of. I don't know your full story, Brittany. But I look at certain things in my life where I was for sure, like let's just say a year ago, everything's drastically switched for me. Career, personal, just relationships. Everything's switched within a year's time. And there are certain things I told God that I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is how it's supposed to be. Thank you for mapping it out, God. But then things shifted. And now that it's so much easier to look back and track these on the map, but had I received the very things I said I was ready for, I know I would not have been ready. I didn't understand contentment. I didn't know how, and I'm not proficient in these things. I'm very much learning, but at least I'm aware. I didn't even know how to listen. There's so many things that God's working on in my spirit and my soul that are personally going to develop me, and then they're certainly going to develop the relationship for whom I'm meant to be with. It'll truly serve that person, and then our relationship to be for God. So those things are vitally important, as in they're the things that hold our relationship together. And then Brittany, I'm looking where you said the issue of being at peace with God's will, truly wanting God's will to be your own. In your writing here, I can just see in it that you do want God's will to be your own. You were searching for it. You took the time to write an email to me, and I'm very thankful you did so. You're on the path. But then for the next step, if that's what you're wondering, I would say the next step is in your alone time where you actually allow God to speak. Are you praying for growth? Are you asking God to develop you to be ready for all the things He wants to give you? He does want to give you that special someone. All these amazing things, but are you praying to develop right now where you're at, and that God, who clearly wants to use your life and isn't going to waste a second, are you praying for Him to come in and to develop you? If we're talking about relationships and marriage, marriage is for a really long time. And if God is the one who's going to build the foundation, this is where I know we can trust God and that His timing is certainly best. Growth is the main thing I've learned of this last year, whether it's personal development, views I have over the world. All those things have very much shaped me. And for the first time in my life, I'm not stressing out when things will happen. It's only because of however many times I've been in this place of saying, this needs to happen now, God, and then it's like, oh, wow, thank you, God, that didn't happen right then. Like, I know it'll happen later. Through all those moments, I've finally slowed down enough to trust His timing. And so I think the will is just submission and permission to let God work in His timing. And then slowly that trust and everything else through life experience will build and we'll allow God to work. And it starts right now. And God's ready to give you peace right now. That's the biggest thing of everything I'm saying right now. God's here to give you peace in this very moment. So Brittany, I pray that these words can somehow help you. I pray that you get into the Word, which is most important, and seek what God has for you. It sounds like you're on an amazing path. There's a lot of wisdom in the thoughts you wrote here. So thank you so much for writing. Guys, just encourage Brittany right now. Just take a moment. Write something down that you might have and relating to this, something I didn't think of. Please, this is for you guys and for me, all to connect right below. I'm very thankful that you take the time to watch this. This is a community. Say a prayer for each other, and we will talk soon. Alrighty, God bless.